Okay, Willy.
Yes, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. First off, I would like to say hello to my new friend from far, far away, Olenka from Peru. Hi, Olenka. Hi. And some familiar faces. Azran, I've seen you before. And also some familiar faces from Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, have you noticed that Victor and I have a similar virtual background? Can you take a look, please? Mine is prettier. Mine is dark blue. Victor is light blue, but we come from the same, we work in the same university. And the name of the university is Nanyang Technological University. There you go. It's a very nice university located in Singapore. It's one of the best universities. And there are a lot of nice people there, including Victor and me. And both Victor and me work in the School of Education. Locally, it's called the National Institute of Education. It's the best teacher education institution, not in the world, but in Singapore. Reason being, there's only one teacher institution, and that's why it's the best teacher institution in Singapore. Victor mentioned about our graduate programs. We've got master's programs. We offer MA in Applied Linguistics, MED in English Education, and also doctoral programs, PhD in Applied Linguistics, and Doctor in Education. We've got students from many different places. So if you would like to enjoy the vibrancy of studying in Singapore, NTU NIE is the place to go. Ladies and gentlemen, today I am addressing a very, very important question. And that question is, can technology enhance language teaching and language learning? Yeah, so the focus will be on language learning. In particular, I'll be focusing on language proficiency or English language proficiency. Now, as you know, technology is now everywhere. We can't really live without technology. Even if you want to order food, we have to use technology now. This is particularly true in Singapore, where we are experiencing a soft lockdown. People are not expected, are not encouraged to go out. They have to make use of whatever technology they have in order to interact, to get the job done and things like that. In the same way in education, can we teach without technology? The answer is probably not currently, because a lot of us are making heavy use of technology in our teaching, in our interaction with our colleagues, and also in our interaction with our students as well. Next question that is important is this: will technology solve all of our problems? Maybe for Azran from Bangladesh, the answer is probably not. Azran, if you want to teach smaller classes, come to Singapore. My students, my classes are really very small. It's about 20, 25 students. So it's really a lot of fun interacting, working with a small group of students in the classroom. The other question that I want to share with you, I want to address together with you is this: is technology a silver bullet for language teaching and language learning? Victor and Yoshiko have shared a lot about the research that has been done in terms of the potential benefits of technology in language teaching and language learning. Now, what I've seen from the literature are things like this. Yes, technology can transform language learning. We can do things that was not possible before. It can also enhance language learning. It can also support language learning. Now, pay attention here. Researchers tend to use words like this. It can transform, it can enhance, it can support language learning. But for us, language teachers or English language teachers, we want to know whether and to what extent the use of technology can eventually improve the English language proficiency of our students. And that will be the focus of my discussion today. Let me first off share with you a very, very interesting study that was published recently in 2019 by three experienced researchers, one from Canada and the other two based in China. Look at the title very carefully here. the more technology, the better. A comparison of teacher-student interactions in high and low technology use in elementary EFL classrooms in China. I think this is a topic that is of interest to many of you in the audience, especially those of you working in low resource countries, in places where resources are limited. This is happening in China, in primary schools, in villages, in small towns in China. The researchers are looking or were investigating the use of high technology and low technology groups in two different groups of teachers. And they wanted to find out if the interaction patterns in these two different classes are basically the same or different. The interaction patterns here refer to the kind of questions that the teacher asks, the kind of interactions that the students have in the classroom. In other words, the amount and the quality of interactions that happen in the classroom. Well, social learning theories would have told us that social interaction is very, very important for language development, for learning in general. The result, if I were to ask you, for example, what were the results are likely to be in terms of the two groups of teachers, one using technology a little bit and the other group using a lot of technology. The answer, interestingly, or the result of the study is this. It's onaji. Yoshiko, what does onaji mean? Yoshiko, are you still there, Yoshiko?
Same.
Yes. Onaji means?
Yeah, same.
Or the same, yes. The results means they're the same. You know, the two groups of teachers using a lot of technology on the one hand, and the other group using less technology. Hey, there's no difference. Interesting, isn't it? It's no difference. They're the same. The amount of use of English in the classroom continued to be very small, very, very minimal. Minimal use of English in the classroom, both by the teachers and also by the students. And interestingly, when the teachers ask questions, surprise, surprise, they ask the same old questions that they usually ask the students. There's a lot of display questions. What time is it now, for example? What day was it yesterday? Display questions or directives. Open page 9. Work in groups. Do your homework now. The kind of questions that teachers usually ask in the classroom. In terms of feedback, we all know that feedback is very important, yeah? In terms of the kind of feedback that the teachers give the students, again, it's very small, it's very, very minimal. So this is one study basically that shows that the use of technology in and of itself, I think Victor has a very good point in his presentation when he said that technology is just a tool, yeah? Keep that in mind. If you use technology simply as a tool, not as, something that will support your pedagogical innovations or pedagogical teaching, then technology may not produce the desired result. Let me share with you another study. Now, this one is even more interesting, and this to me. Again, it was published in a high-profile journal, Computer Assisted Language Learning, and the researcher, or a group of researchers, Golonka, looked at a big number of past studies that have examined the potential effect of technology in foreign language learning. They reviewed about 350 previously completed studies involving the use of technology. They wanted to find out whether technology made a difference, whether technology could help improve students' English language proficiency, or some aspects of students' English language proficiency. The result, again, the result is interesting. Overall, the effect is limited. Now, remember, we are looking at the effect of technology on English language proficiency, yeah, speaking, reading, writing, listening, and all that. The only interesting or strong effect is found on pronunciation. So the lesson here is very clear. If you want to help your students improve on their pronunciation, then technology might be your best bet. I think technology can be a wonderful tool for you to help your students develop or improve on their pronunciation. Increase amount of chat time. Yes, they are more active using technology to exchange ideas, but we don't know whether the students are using the target language or whether the students are doing the chatting using their first language. But the amount of chat increase a great deal. If that is the case, can technology enhance language learning? So that's, again, the big question. We have seen 2 studies there. I'm sure there are a lot more studies out there. I have not reviewed all the studies that have been done, but to date, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I know from the literature, well, the effect of technology on language proficiency is either small or limited. Yeah. Okay. So today I want to share with you 3 major points here. And I think these 3 points will help us understand why the effect of technology on English language proficiency, our students' proficiency, can be very small or medium-sized or maybe, large. I will be looking at the use of technology, but with a little change in pedagogy. So that's point number 1. Now, interestingly, this is still widespread in many parts of the world. Number 2, using technology, but the use is accompanied with a good set of pedagogical principles. I think Yoshi and also Victor mentioned a lot about pedagogical principles. And point number 3, very important, whether and to what extent the use of technology is informed by a good set of second language pedagogy, principles that help us understand the nature of language acquisition and how we can best support students in acquiring the language. Let me begin the first one. So this is the first one, using technology with little change in pedagogy. I've seen this happening, not in every case, but I've seen this happening in some places in the world. I think the previous speakers also mentioned this, the use of technology is a simple substitute for what is now possible using technology. Sharing documents using Google Drive, for example, communicating with students using WhatsApp, asking students to fill in a survey or an exercise using Google Forms, doing a spell check, using text with hyperlinks and things like that. These are not bad. These are good. These are things that we should be using now because technology allows us to use these tools to help us teach and communicate with our students. But without appropriate use of pedagogy, I think we may not be able to see the effect, the results that we would like to see happening in our students. For example, another example is in the past we used printed materials as reading materials. But now we can use digital texts, to help the students become more familiar with the non-print, reading materials. But the question then is whether ebooks and printed books are equally effective. Do they produce the same level of comprehension? I don't think that's a good question. If there is no change in pedagogy, if there's no change in the way the students read the text, I don't think we can expect any major differences whether you read printed or non-print materials. I think for teachers like us, we are very knowledgeable. We have the knowledge and the skills. It doesn't matter whether we read online or whether we read printed books. I think we are able to set our purpose very clearly. We can focus our attention in a certain ways, and we can do all the wonderful things that good readers are expected to do. An example of simple substitution in our teaching. I think there are many English language teachers out there in the audience. Now, if you've been teaching language as knowledge, explaining or spending a lot of time teaching the grammatical rules of the English language, like the subjunctive clause, the gerund, and all the wonderful grammatical features of the language, in the past you would be using, traditional way of presenting the information to the students, but now you're using technology. If that is the case, then with no major change in pedagogy, I don't think you can expect a major transformation or a major benefits in terms of the language learning that happens in the classroom. You may be wondering what are some of the reasons why teachers continue to use the same pedagogy, whether they teach, online or on-site. Here are some of the reasons. Teachers are busy people. They don't have time to actually learn how to use technology in the way that experts believe are important for teachers. Again, Victor mentioned about teachers as designer of learning. Some teachers feel that, well, they've got no choice. Now, the countries are experiencing a major disruption in their teaching, so you have to use technology. So you just use it because you have to. And in some cases, I've seen people saying to me that, well, I'm about to retire in 1 year's time. Why should I learn how to use technology? It's a waste of my time. Yeah. If technology, again, is used in that way with small change in our pedagogical approaches, then the question of whether technology can improve English language proficiency, then the answer is probably not. Yeah. If you're lucky, maybe. But most of the time, the answer will be not really, not likely. Okay, let me move on to point number 2. So point number 1, again, is the use of technology with minimal change in pedagogy. Now, point number 2 is very easy. The use of technology with good pedagogy. Again, the previous speakers have already mentioned a lot about, a lot of pedagogical principles that we need to use in order to make the best use of technology in our teaching. In other words, the use of technology will have to be informed by a set of research-based principles. And there are many out there. And here are some that I like very much. Yeah, I'm sharing only 5 here, not 6, but 5 principles that I think are very important for us to remember, whether you are teaching on site or online. Number 1, learning happens when it is personalized, when you appreciate, when you can address the learning needs of your students, the differences that exist in your classroom. Engaged learning is another very, very important principle these days. Some people have suggested that engagement is the holy grail of learning. If the students are not engaged, the teachers can be engaged, but if the students are not engaged, then chances are learning is not likely to happen. Maybe some learning there, but very superficial kind of learning. So engagement is another important principle that we need to remember. Some people have suggested that if you are able to engage 90% of your students 90% of the time, then you are likely to be a good, excellent, successful language teachers in the classroom. The other 3 principles are also very important. Authentic learning. I think for those of you who are teaching language in the classroom, I think we need to try to bring in realistic, real-world tasks into the classroom. And that is the kind of things that are likely to engage the students, to motivate the students. Some knowledge of the language is important, but more importantly is how we can get the students to be more interested. When they can see that, hey, this is the kind of things that I learn in the classroom, and this is the kind of things that I'll need to be using outside the classroom. Feedback is important. For some of you, feedback can be very, very tiring. Feedback can be something that you try to avoid. But if you look at it from another perspective, the feedback that you give to the students is, from the students' perspective, an opportunity for them to learn and relearn again what they have just learned previously from the teacher. Collaboration is another important thing that you need to remember. Yeah, learning happens when the students are able to share their ideas, expand their ideas, and learn from others as well in the process. So these are 5 principles that I think is important when we use technology in language classroom. I was reminded of this book by this professor. The quote is very interesting here. To improve education, focus on pedagogy. So it's how you use technology, not the technology itself. The technology turns out to be very easy to use. Yeah, some may be very sophisticated, but it is the pedagogy that we use that can make a difference when we use technology for language teaching purposes. Same question again. If you use technology and your use of technology is informed by a good set of principles, pedagogical principles, do you think the use of technology can improve students' English language proficiency? Yoshi, are you still there?
Yes.
It's a more challenging question now. Yes, yes, no, maybe?
I think yes.
Likely to be yes, yes, but wait until I come to the next one. Yeah, because a good set of principles, pedagogical principles, is very important, but I think we need something else. And that something else is what I'm going to discuss with you. So point number 3, number 1 is the use of technology with very minimal change. You just use technology the way you taught before. Number 2, the use of technology that is accompanied by a good set of principles. Number 3 is using technology, but the use of technology is informed by second language pedagogical principles. Let me say this again, second language pedagogical principles. Remember, all of us are teaching language, yeah? Eventually, we are interested in helping our students to acquire the language, to develop sufficient proficiency in the language. I want to share 3 things with you, the 3 L's of second language pedagogy. There are many other principles, but I want to focus on these 3 only. The first one is language input. The second one is language processing. And the third one is language use. First one, language input. What do we learn from research? The research tells us that language input is extremely important in language learning. And technology is an excellent tool for our students or for the teachers to make input available in large quantity to our students. Yeah. Again, research tells us very clearly that if the input is minimal, then we can't expect a lot of language learning to happen in the classroom. Other types of learning can happen in the classroom, but without the sufficient amount of language input, then learning may not happen. Remember, with technology, input is just a click away. 20, 30 years ago, language input was difficult. Yeah, the best place for the students to be exposed to the target language input was probably the classroom and to some extent the universities or the school's library. But now input is available 24 hours a day. Ebooks, graded readers, TED Talks, Netflix, talk shows, all these can potentially serve as important language input that can help students develop their English language proficiency. Yeah. Some theoretical basis. Professor Richard Day from the University of Hawaii wrote this book many years ago. And this book is still considered one of the best that is out there in describing the role of input in language learning, in language acquisition. This is what he says. Yoshi, can you help me read this slowly?
Good things happen to students who read and listen a great deal in a foreign language. Research studies show they become better and more confident readers. They write better, their listening and speaking ability improve, and their vocabularies become richer.
Yes, and this is very true. And these days, providing a lot of input, reading materials and listening materials become easier with technology. And as the quote mentions here, if you want your students to become good readers, confident readers, students who are able to understand spoken language, students who can express themselves clearly, then this is the way to go. You may be wondering, as I said earlier on, 20 years ago, it may be a bit difficult to provide a lot of input to your students, but these days it's easier, and a lot of the input that is available is free. Here's one example. Storyline Online, free access for your students to help them develop maybe their pronunciation and maybe their English language proficiency if they listen to the stories over a period of time. Another example of free access, free resources that are available on the internet, a lot of books, freely available books, graded readers made available by the Asia Foundation. You'll be able to find hundreds of books like this for your students and even for your children at home as well. Yeah, again, these are free that you can access 24 hours a day. If you're looking for interesting, exciting, spoken language materials or video materials or listening materials, this website is really, really very good. ELLO. I think it was developed by an English language teacher based in Japan, I think. ELLO. It has hundreds, if not thousands, of language teaching materials that our students can use. Now, if you don't have a lot of time, because time is really an issue for teachers, and if you have some money, or if your universities have some resources, then I would encourage you to subscribe to X Reading. Now, X Reading is a library, is a digital library. It has more than 1,000 graded readers. Students can read and students can listen at the same time. So all the written stories and also the spoken versions of the stories are available. And this system is very comprehensive. It comes with a complete learning management system. So everything is in there for the teachers to use so that the teachers can monitor, can track students' reading, can assess their understanding, can guide the students' selection of the reading materials, and teachers can also assign activities as well. This, however, is not free. You have to pay a little, not very much. Yeah. So L1 is language input. L2 is language processing. Now, this is very important. Now, the key idea here is this. Input alone is not enough. Input will have to be, or the language in the input will have to be accessible. I'm using the word accessible here instead of the word easy, but it means the same thing. Accessible means easy. From the student's perspective, this is the kind of language materials that they can understand easily without a lot of effort. But the contents, more importantly, will have to be magical. I think I mentioned several times about engagement. Engagement is the holy grail of learning. When the contents of what they read and listen are magical and accessible, I think they will be fully engaged, and with that, a lot of learning can happen. A lot of language learning can happen in that way. Remember, the contents will have to be magical. We have to be really appealing, really, really interesting for language learning to happen most effectively. Here are some examples of people that I know, either from research or either from a personal encounters. These are foreign language learners in the region, from Korea, from Thailand, from Vietnam, and from Indonesia. These are people who have developed a very high level of proficiency by making use of technology, by doing a lot of reading, by doing a lot of listening, by doing a lot of viewing. Willy also enjoyed listening and viewing a lot of, these are my, favorite movies. Perry Mason, Everybody Loves Raymond, Night Court, and many others. For books, these are things that kept me really captivated. Mindset by Carol Dweck, Grit by Angela Duckworth, and Late Bloomers. This one I like very much. It gives me a lot of motivation to continue to grow, to continue to learn. Basically, the main message here is that learning never ends. It doesn't matter whether you are 50, 60, or 70 years old, you can continue to grow. Wonderful, isn't it? L number 3. So L1 is language input. L2 is language processing, very important. And L3 is this. L3 is usage, using. Yeah, practicing using the language again and again. The goal of language learning eventually is to develop fluency and accuracy. And the only way you can develop fluency is when you do things again and again, repeatedly on a daily basis. There's no other way. Look at this guy. Yeah, the guy here on the left-hand side, I think he knows how to, smash the shuttlecock. Yeah, but he keeps on doing it again and again. He is doing what he is already good at so that he can become better. He can place the ball more quickly, more accurately, and at the right location in the opponent's court. That is the power of repeated practice. Now, here is a quiz for you, Yoshi. People learn to read by reading, by doing a lot of reading. And that's how you develop your reading proficiency. Yeah, people learn to speak by speaking. Yoshi, fill in the blank. People learn to listen by? Very good, by listening.
Tricky one.
Yes. And the last one, people learn to write by? By writing, yeah. So that is one big principle that we need to remember. And technology is very good, yeah. Technology is an excellent tool to get the students to be excited, to be interested in speaking, reading, writing, listening, and so on. So the 3 L's of second language learning principles: language input, language processing, and language use. The same question again. If your technology, if the use of technology is accompanied by these 3 L's, do you think that technology can improve the language proficiency of the students? Yes, I'm happy that Yoshi is nodding her head now. Yes, 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 yeah. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, just 3 points that I want to share with you. Number 1, technology is going to be here to stay with us for many, many years to come. Yeah, eventually you will not be doing solely online teaching, but you'll be doing a lot of blended learning, on-site plus online. Yeah. So I think it's a good opportunity for us to learn how to use technology in a way that is consistent with what we know from research about the nature of language learning and how best we can support students' English language proficiency development. Yeah, remember, the use of technology will have to be accompanied by a good set of big educational principles, but also second language learning principles. So back to square one, this is the question for us. So can technology improve language learning and language teaching? Please put your response in the chat box. And that is the end of my presentation. Since you've been listening and you've been behaving nicely as an audience, now here are some free gifts for you. All these free books are available in my website, Willy's ELT Corner. My slides are available here. You can scan the QR code and download my slide if you want to. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Thank you.